I don't know if any of you know this, but there are a ton of theories floating around the internet that all have to do with the parents in the Toy Story franchise. That's right, not the toys, not the children, but their parents. Now, that isn't to say that there aren't theories about Buzz or Woody, it's just that the theories that are about the children's parents tend to be a bit more interesting and sometimes quite shocking. For instance, there is the popular theory floating around that Sid, the evil neighbor kid, has a father who is an alcoholic, or even the slightly less dark ones, like the theory about Andy's mother being the previous owner of Jessie. All of these theories tend to be very well thought out and have a lot of depth to them. But did you know that there is one person in the Toy Story universe that has fans divided over a whole bunch of theories? And it's someone that we don't even see in the films. We, of course, are talking about Andy's father. That man is seemingly non-existent in his child's life for some reason or another. And it looks like the fans are more concerned about it than Andy is. Theories are floating around from some people who believe his father has been dead this whole time, while others believe that Andy's parents simply got a divorce. There are even some people who speculate that, much like Andy's mom was Jessie's previous owner, Andy's dad was Woody's former owner way before he was Andy's. Now, while all of these theories about Andy's father are fairly different and at first glance seem like they would be unrelated to one another, it actually turns out that they might all be connected. And in the end, they might give us some insight into Andy's parents' relationship with one another and what happened between them. In today's video, we are going to be going over each theory individually and then explaining how each one could possibly connect with one another to give us that bigger picture. Who knows, maybe by the end of this, we will finally find out what really happened to Andy's dad. Alright, so as we mentioned before, there are a ton of theories out there about the whereabouts of Andy's father. We are going to be going over the 6 biggest and most popular theories about his dad and see how each of them acts as a puzzle piece. And when placed together, they will give us the bigger picture of who his father was and what happened to him and his mom. The first theory, and perhaps one of the most popular and believed theories out there, is that Andy's dad is dead. This one basically comes from his lack of presence in the entire franchise. I mean, this man isn't even mentioned one time, which tells a lot of people that it wasn't an easy thing for them to get over, whatever happened to him. One Reddit user, just a typical ginger, added to the theory by using Andy's favorite type of toys as evidence. It's made clear in the first movie that Woody the Cowboy Sheriff is Andy's favorite toy, at least until Buzz Lightyear, the super cool Space Ranger, comes into play. Then, it is a toss-up between the two. While Andy seems to focus on Buzz more, he still gets devastated when he believes that he lost Woody. So what does his choice of favorites tell us? Well, Andy clearly has an attachment to strong male figures that tend to be in a position of leadership. He likes the good guy with a kind heart. These are also qualities that one might look for in a father figure, leading many to believe Andy has filled a void left behind his father's passing with toys that might remind him of the one he lost. Now, there is one theory that's very similar to that one, and a bit more straightforward. And that's the fact that Andy's parents may both still be alive, they are just separated. And after the divorce, Andy ended up living with his mother. If this is the case, it's likely that the split wasn't exactly amicable, because as we said before, there is absolutely no mention or sight of Andy's father throughout the entire series, which means the wounds are still fresh and deep. Another thing worth noting is, as we mentioned before, Andy tends to gravitate towards toys that are strong male leaders and good role models. What if this is a hint towards what his father might have been doing for a career? I mean, think about it. A lot of kids find a fascination with their parents' work, especially if the occupation is something along the lines of a firefighter or a police officer. This is exactly what is proposed in this next theory, with some fans believing that Andy's father was a cop. When you think about it, it only makes sense. Woody is a sheriff, and he and Andy would often play a cops and robbers style game together, and Buzz is a space ranger, the police of the stars. Together, the two might be filling both the role of a father figure and career role model that his father is unable to fill for him. Alright, before we go any further, let's talk a little bit about the first 3 theories we just mentioned and how they could all potentially connect with one another really well. First things first, out of the first 2 theories about Andy's dad, which one do you believe to be more likely? Is his father dead, or are his parents just divorced? I mean, when you take a look at the first theory, and then the theory about his dad being a member of law enforcement, you can see that the way the theories use his toys as evidence to support them are very similar. Both claim that Andy is drawn to these specific toys because they remind him of the man that his father was, even though he was no longer around. Well, what if, just like the second theory states, Andy's dad is actually alive and just no longer around or in the picture? If we take the evidence of the toys from the first theory, you could still use that to support the second theory just as easily. Andy finds himself so connected with Woody and Buzz because his parents are divorced, so he doesn't get to see his father anymore. So he has to use his toys to remind him of his dad, especially if his dad was someone that he looked up to. It all has the potential to make sense and fit rather well into the Toy Story universe. However, we have a bit of our own twist to put on the theory that we believe could hold up just as well. So, you know how in the third theory we spoke about, Andy's dad potentially being a cop, and that being the reason he holds Woody in such high regard? Well, what if that wasn't the case, and it was in fact the opposite? You see, we believe that Andy's mom may have let her son believe that his father was a cop, but in the end, he was no such thing. And yeah, we know it sounds weird. Why would she tell him that he was a police officer if he wasn't? Well, what if it was because she was ashamed of the kind of person that Andy's dad actually was, and wanted to give her son someone that he could be proud of? In this case, we believe that it's plausible for Andy's father to have been a criminal who landed himself some serious time in prison, and at some point, his mother just couldn't handle it anymore, so she divorced him, and in the end, thought it would be easier to tell her son that his dad was a hero to keep her son from the painful truth about who his father actually was. As a matter of fact, if we turn to the toys as evidence once again, you can even see how it would be possible for Andy's parents to have met through their childhood toys. You might already know that it is heavily believed that at one point during her childhood, Andy's mom was Jesse's original owner. We met Jessie in the second installment to the Toy Story franchise, where we learned that she had previously been owned by a little girl named Emily, who eventually grew to neglect her. While many fans believe Emily to be Andy's mom, considering the fact that the flashback of Emily looked very similar to the way Andy looked like as a child, and the fact that Andy's hat is a replica of Jesse's and not Woody's has led fans to believe that the hat once belonged to his mother and was passed down to him after being born. Now, this theory might seem nice, but it's really sad when you realize it means that not only does Andy's mom not recognize her favorite childhood toy anymore, but Jessie also doesn't recognize her previous owner who she used to love so much. To make things even more interesting though, did you know that there is a theory that goes hand in hand with this that claims that Woody once belonged to Andy's father? The idea is that Woody would know how to comfort and be there for Andy in the way that Andy's father should be because of the time he spent with his previous owner, Andy's dad. He would know exactly what Andy's dad would want for his kid, and how to be the perfect role model while his real father wasn't around. Now, when you take a look at both of these theories together, they work really well with one another. And if we turn to the toys as evidence yet again, it doesn't seem like it would be too far-fetched to believe that the two ultimately bonded over their love for cowboys and cowgirls. And through that shared passion, the two fell in love, only to get married and start a family together. However, things took a sad turn when Andy's father's life of crime caught up with him, and he ended up going to prison. At which point, Andy's mom divorced him and was now a single mother raising 2 children on her own. However, to spare her children the pain, she would tell them both that their father was out being a hero, and as a cop, he was saving people from any danger that was coming their way. But in reality, he was just sitting behind bars. Meanwhile, she passed on her and her ex-husband's toys to their children, and due to the absence of a father figure, both of them turned to their toys for guidance. And to add to all of this, a Redditor, Eat Books, ended up leaving a comment on the theory about Andy's father being dead and completely blowing fans' minds. They used the evidence of the toys acting sort of like father figures to explain. What if Buzz's story in the first film is a metaphor for a child coming to terms with his mother remarrying? I mean, think about how Woody treats Buzz throughout the entire first film. It's very reminiscent of a young kid who is very upset by things changing around the household, especially when that change is a new parental figure. Now, this would fit right into what we were just talking about. With Andy's father now in prison, his mother chooses to remarry. However, since Andy still views his dad as a hero, it would be hard for him to accept anyone into that role. This is all entirely plausible, especially because it seems to fit the common theme that can be found in the Toy Story universe, the theme of children who are rebelling against their parents. Much like in the theory about Sid's father and how he might be an alcoholic, supported by the quick scene we see him in, with his feet propped up watching TV and beer cans laying all around. And the reason Sid lashes out so much is to make people around him feel the fear that his father instills into him. Maybe the entire Toy Story franchise has just been about children who are trying to deal with problems in the real world, but can only find solace in their imagination with their toys who never let them down. But what do you guys think? How likely are any of these theories to be true? And if you have any theories that might fit into this web, be sure to let us know in the comments section below. As for now, that's all, Disney fans. Let us know what video you'd like to see next in the comments, and like and subscribe for more magically packed videos.